Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifixional live stream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us on this glorious day. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we did an episode about how to reconcile with a jerk. And I told you the story about how I was estranged with someone and that I reached out to make amends and not even to become friends per se again, but at least the situation was uncomfortable. The things that I had to do to preserve what was right hurt another person's feelings. I just didn't like the way it went down, so I wanted to deal with it and just say, look, I'm sorry how it went down. Not for the outcome, not for the decision, but for how it made them feel. The problem was, if you remember from that episode, that I was struggling with this burning angst. Like, I didn't want them to win. I didn't want them to think that I was groveling or crawling back, right? Like, that's a terrible temptation that we all go through. And I said to myself, look, if I'm going to teach all of our beautiful warrior saints about this, I got to do it myself. So I sucked it up. I called the person. I tried to make amends. And even it didn't, went well. It was a very cordial conversation. I don't know that it exactly ended exactly like I wanted, but, I did it. And then for the next couple of days, I was so irritated because I kept playing in my mind, they're going to think they won. Like, that person made a bunch of bad decisions, forced my hand into, removing them from a situation, and they went nuts with it. It was them. But I was irritated because I didn't want them to think they won when I reached back. And in all of this, it made me think, like, how am I going to get through this? Well, I'm going to tell you something interesting that happened. The suffering that I went through that time when I had to endure that found its fruit in a confession that I heard earlier this week. Certainly won't tell you the content of the confession, obviously not the human being, but the person was struggling with estrangement in their own life. And as we were talking through it and reflecting on Scripture on how we as warrior saints get through those types of challenging situations, especially that desire to preserve pride and not let the other guy win, I now had in the bag an actual personal experience that I could share with the person as an image. And when that confession was done, I was like, oh my gosh, all of the angst that I felt a couple of weeks ago, having gone through that myself, now showed itself to me to be worth every moment of it. Somehow, God had said, I'm going to take what is uncomfortable to you, and I'm going to make it something unto life, and you can teach, you can share that. And I thought to myself, okay, thank God, right? Now, the reason I bring this point up to all of us is that I want us to know, like, to all of us to recognize, look, sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do. Sometimes we have to put our ego aside, or even allow our ego to be humbled, right? But when we do this, we find ourselves like Jesus on the cross, right? This is what it means to be crucifixional, where our ego, our desire has been sacrificed and set aside, and we become, even if just for a brief moment, Christ-like. And that is what we as warrior saints have been called to. So in order to do that, we've got to really be open to allow ourselves to embrace that, as uncomfortable as it may be. Now, I know that's hard. This is why we have the way of the warrior saint, because we're going to guide you through it. Not because we're like the smartest guy in the world. Certainly not. But because we're fighting the same fights. And even in some sense, putting ourselves in the middle of those fights so that we can go through them, experience them, understand them, and process it through the lens of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then just turn around and share it with you and say, look, here's what we found. Here's what we did. Here's where we failed. Here's where we had some success. You want it? Follow us. And that's really where it comes down to. I want you to join this right now. Very simple. 1, click this website, warriorsaints.org. 2, scroll around, find the way of the warrior saint. 3, subscribe and watch the videos. You're going to find yourself with lessons that are, going through all of these challenges and struggles that you and I face in life. It is good stuff. We want you to join us. We're going to be back tomorrow to talk about this very topic even a little bit further. Love you, beautiful people. Visit warriorsaints.org. And as always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.